Ok, bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Estamos cerrando la primera jornada de esta nueva edición del Campus Party, en esta Digital Edition. Es el evento de tecnología, creatividad e innovación más grande de la región. Nos estamos celebrando en Argentina, en Paraguay, en Uruguay, en Chile, Colombia y Brasil. Recuerden, para los que es su primera vez, hay campuseros históricos que nos hemos visto en la vieja normalidad, nos hemos visto el año pasado ya en ediciones digitales. Este es un encuentro especialmente diseñado para inspirarse, para aprender, para co-crear soluciones. Tienen más de 70 stickers, tienen más de 40 workshops, un montón de actividades que arrancaron hoy. Y para arrancar tenemos, nada, un gran honor, un espacio que la verdad tengo muchas ganas de dialogar. Vamos a charlar con Jonathan Hofeller. Jonathan es el vicepresidente de ventas comerciales de Starlink en SpaceX. En ese puesto lidera las ventas y la creación de productos empresariales y comerciales Starlink de la empresa. Hofeller también lidera la creación y el desarrollo de los esfuerzos caritativos de Starlink, un programa diseñado para llevar conectividad a áreas económicamente desafiadas alrededor del mundo a través de una red de benefactores. Hofeller se unió a SpaceX en 2007 y anteriormente dirigió el lanzamiento comercial de la compañía y los esfuerzos de vuelos espaciales privados humanos, expandiendo con éxito la base de clientes de SpaceX a todo el mundo, originando su programa de viajes compartidos y encabezando su entrada en el sector privado de astronautas. Mi nombre es Tomás Balmaceda, estoy en Buenos Aires y estoy muy feliz de poder charlar con Jonathan. Jonathan, welcome to Campus Party.
All right, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Okay, first of all, I really want to know how do you define Starlink? What is its purpose? What it makes? What is unique?
Sure. So again, thank you for having me. For those of you who know about SpaceX and what we do, we are doing the impossible. We like tackling the very difficult problems. We have embarked on developing a constellation of satellites that are orbiting the Earth. We've launched close to 1,500. We have launched over 1,500 satellites to date, and to provide connectivity. Traditional satellite internet is slow. It's high latency. It's not. It's good, but it's not great. So Starlink is providing great internet to the globe. And so we're using all of the stuff we've learned on building rockets and revolutionizing that market to revolutionize the communications market. So we have an active constellation today. We are providing service in over 13 countries and focused on areas where they either don't have good internet or don't have internet at all. And what we're finding is a huge response of people that are not well connected, especially this last year with COVID and everything, remote learning. Even prior to the onslaught of COVID, the demand for connectivity is extremely high. We've connected villages, tribal, First Nations. We've connected schools. We've connected medical clinics. And residential homes. And so where a lot of people are feeling they're being left behind because they don't have great connectivity, Starlink provides high bandwidth, low latency internet. And so similar internet that we're on now, you can do FaceTime calls, Skype calls, you can do telemedicine. The internet is incredible internet like you would have at your home being provided through our Starlink network.
Because, sometimes we take for granted internet. I'm a 40-year-old guy, and I remember vividly how was the world before internet, but now for me, it's like a natural resource, something that I have. But there's a lot of places, as you were telling, in the world that don't have this access. What do you think is the impact of the internet in those communities?
We've seen it. It can be as simple as the human connection to friends and family that are remote. It can be the connection to doctors to get the right treatment. We've enabled folks that wouldn't have been able to have commerce, been able to sell their goods and services. Now they have a global platform to access the world. The impact is immediate. What we love about it is that the system we built has been deployed. We are shipping terminals or Starlinks daily, and the beauty of the product is that the complexity, we work really hard to make it simple. You get the package in the mail, you plug it in, you point it at the sky, and you have high-speed internet. It is that simple. And if you look at Reddit, you look at the other forums, the response has been overwhelming. People have been underserved for a very long time. To get fiber into many of these rural areas is either impossible, depending on the terrain, or just takes a couple of years, and in the interim, they need a great connectivity solution. And what we're finding from all around the globe is that there is no shortage of people that need connectivity.
And our planet is really special. We have the oceans, we have mountains, we have deserts. Would you say it's the biggest challenge for Starlink?
So there's a lot of challenges on a day-to-day basis. We make the technical part look easy. Certainly the very smart people that are working here at SpaceX and Starlink have developed a system where we can produce a lot of satellites every day. We have obviously the access to launch, and building the great product is something that we've worked very hard to do and keep it simple for everyone to use. It has been a challenge, and we've succeeded on that. And the next phase is getting into every country. We are looking for advocacy from everyone on this call here and around the globe that want great internet. Certainly appreciate your support of SpaceX and Starlink, and we've gotten deposits from around the globe expressing this interest. And so getting through the regulatory hurdles so we can get there, and we're doing it country by country, and appreciate people's patience. I know a lot of folks are eager to get Starlink, and we're working as hard and as fast as we can to get as many people connected as possible. But the impact globally, you mentioned, all the different terrains across the globe, all the different environmental challenges, getting the ability to connect the globe without the requirement of terrestrial landlines opens up the power to provide information about our globe that has not previously been available in a largely meaningful way, with very high data speeds and low latency, allowing you to share that information across the globe very quickly.
Well, in the past, many men and women argue that internet must be a human right. Okay, so in the list of things that people really need or must have, there has to be a place for internet access. Do you agree with that?
So I don't know whether I agree or disagree. What I can say is that internet is something that is a powerful tool to keep humanity connected, and it certainly has a lot of benefits, as we're seeing across the globe, from, like I mentioned, connecting doctors to patients. Educating the globe is something that I think no one would argue that having more access to education is a bad thing. So certainly there's a tremendous amount of benefit to having internet access.
Okay, and we're talking about all the good sides, the good side of internet. We know it in this pandemic. We can work, we can get entertained, get educated, we can get medicines or medical treatment or diagnosis. But also internet sometimes is the place for misinformation, for hate speech. Do you think that we can dream of a future when internet can be a better environment for ideas, for creativity?
Certainly, I think having access to having that dialogue is important. The more we communicate to one another and share ideas and share beliefs is important.
Okay, and would you say that the role of private companies and from the nation, from the states, of the publics should be working together? You think that there's room for that? You've been talking about how all the administrations and all the regulations you have to adjust to be in different countries, because your goal is to have internet access for everyone. So do you think companies are the way to get that?
Certainly, they play a role. The speed in which commercial companies can operate a lot of times is much quicker. But with our partnerships with let's say, for example, on the rocket side with NASA, we would not be the company that we are today without partnerships like NASA with the government, providing their support as a customer, and their partnership along the way has been invaluable to us as a business. And as we grow into Starlink, looking to work with governments has been, if we can illustrate the value that we're providing to them. Disaster management is another one that comes to mind. Like saving lives is something that not only humans want to do, but government organizations want to do too. And so there's when we can demonstrate what we're doing and the value that we're providing to it, we get a lot of cooperation with the governments, and the government's role to protect its citizens, I think, is part of that.
Okay, we have a large audience today. We have people from Argentina, from Paraguay, from Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, Brazil. Many of this audience maybe they are asking what they should study or how career do they have. Maybe they are kids, they are young, or they are adults. Do you think that this kind of new jobs and new kind of technology gives us more kind of jobs and possibilities to work with?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the access to information is everywhere. If you want to learn how to make something up, program a new coding language, you can learn that. You have access to it. There's a lot of programs available online in order to open that up, and certainly educating folks about how and what to do. It opens up opportunities. I always say, like, when we're promoting, when I talk to students and what should we be doing? What should we be focusing on? Nothing can replace real world experience. We're always focusing on, take something apart, break it, put it back together. And I'm an engineer, so I'm probably biased to that sort of thing. But whether you're just create and learn, and so I think there's a lot of avenues to learn, and the internet opens up a lot of that.
And you can also, when you give education to everyone, or the chance of education to anyone, sometimes you also can help your community, because no one knows the problems or the how your community is gonna to achieve something or what they need. So I agree with you. I think education is changing, it's evolving, and sometimes like you say, you don't need like the traditional structure of the past. You can achieve great things by using the internet as a tool in your education. When you were a kid, do you imagine working for the space? I mean, like, okay, maybe doing what you do today, or you thought you could be a poet or or a fireman? I don't know.
No, I've always loved space. I've been a little bit of a space nerd, but my path didn't directly come to space. I found my way here, and it's certainly it is my passion. get excited about a future where we are zooming around space, going to other planets, working in space. I've applied to the astronaut program a long time ago. I would, of course, love to go to space at some point, as I'm sure many folks that are listening would be. And that's something that I'm fortunate enough to be working on, that we are trying to bring space travel to a place where it's a reality. And for the folks that are listening, there are opportunities to get involved in that sort of stuff globally. So I encourage you guys, if you're interested in it, get involved.
And the other thing that kids like me, loves about space are fiction, science fictions. Star Trek, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes the things that you see in series, in movies, in novels, in comics, many years later, you can have it in your hands. Do you like that? Do you go to the movies? Do you like science fiction?
Science fiction. Certainly, if you look at what we're building, if you look at Starship, a lot of inspiration from science fiction novels on the design of that. Our primary rocket is the Falcon 9, along with the Falcon Heavy. And for the space nerds out there, we got that name from the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. It was Han Solo's ship there, and we dropped the name Millennium and kept Falcon. Obviously, I'm surrounded by several thousand fellow space nerds here. I'd say all to varying degrees. There's varying degrees of space nerdity, but we're all connected by that common bond of witnessing, being exposed to it at various ages and wanting that to be the future. And one of the things that you learn by being here is that only physics can define what is possible and not possible, and you really take that to heart and say, like, everything that you've seen in science fiction, I say not everything, but they do take some liberties on physics in some of the science fiction. There's no reason why it couldn't happen. I mean, SpaceX's goal is to make life multiplanetary. Like, we are building, as we speak, the Starship, the ship that will bring humanity to Mars. If you come to our factory today, you see spaceships. We're laying out the various aspects of what that journey to Mars we're going to look like. What are the accommodations? How do we deal with certain aspects of that long journey? We have customers that have bought rides around the moon. And all this is a reality. It's happening. And what I love about being here at SpaceX is two things. One is, I truly believe our motivations are pure. Starting at the top, the motivation is to have an exciting future and build really amazing stuff. And the other part is, we've been told many times. I've been with the company 14 years that what we're doing is impossible. When Falcon 1 came about, like, a private company can't build a rocket. That's impossible. Then it was Falcon 9. And I remember these conversations with customers and politicians, like, 9 engines on a rocket, like, that'll never work. That's impossible. And then it was, sending humans to space in your own capsule, that's impossible. Landing a rocket, that's impossible. Falcon Heavy, 27 engine, that's impossible. And here we are looking at Starlink, and people saying the same sort of thing. We're kind of over the hump there on that. And still trying to build that, but people have said that's impossible. Starship, impossible. So being a part of this team that doesn't let the folks that say it's impossible define what the future is I feel extremely fortunate to be a part of it.
Well, every company now wants to innovate. Innovation is like the gold mine. You work for a company that is really the leader of innovation, but do you agree that there's place for innovation in every aspect? Either you have a small company, a great company, maybe you're working like in an office or with your friends?
100%. Like one of the things that we constantly try to not restrict ourselves is, like, if you close your eyes and imagine what the future is for whatever business that you're in, we very quickly tend to default to some incremental change or some building upon some existing technology to make it better. But as we challenge ourselves, it's like, really, what should the future be? And it may not align with what your customers want. It may not align with a lot of things that people think, but like that truly revolutionary thought. And once you paint that picture of what that the future should be, it becomes very obvious that that's what reality should be. And an example of that is reusable rockets, right? Like, the future is that we should be like airplanes, going back and forth in a very streamlined manner. And now it seems so obvious that rockets should be reusable, right? And 5 years ago, that was crazy. And we probably have a dozen of those examples where you just, close your eyes and imagine the future and try to pick whatever, piece that you're working on, whether it's the environment or health or any endeavor. And then saying that the only thing that's going to stop you from doing that is physics. Everything else is can be worked around. And so that's something that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of teams that share that vision.
But the problem with innovation, with the things you're talking, is failure, because we are not used to get well with failure, even as a kids, or maybe growing up in the school, at the university. How do you yourself get along with failures, with problems, and how do you think that Starlink works with failures?
Mm-hmm. So that's something we've also been very open about. Like, we're sharing everything that we're doing because the journey is important to learn from your failures. And there's something, like, when you're a kid playing and you're building something and it breaks, you don't think, oh, I failed. Like, you build something else, or you're like, oh, next time I got to build. And for at some point in our development, we say failure is bad. And this is me just thinking about this now. And certainly in business, the general mentality has been failures generally, frowned upon. But the anecdote is, you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. That's 100% true. And so failure is one of those things that you got to obviously have eventual success, but going through failures, it does make you stronger. And sharing, I think if you're more open about it and share it with your partners, whoever they may be, investors or whatever, shows that this is part of the journey, right? And I don't know the right Thomas Edison anecdote, but it's 999 times the light bulb failed, and on the 1,000th try it worked. And yeah, I know the United States is very unique in that perspective, having worked all around the globe. But other countries are opening up to taking risk and experiencing some level of failure.
And also, the other aspect of innovation is when you bring diversity to the table, and you can have different point of view. For many years, a lot of contexts on a life or environments were just with one view. Do you think that diversity, we were talking earlier about communities and how people from the communities are the best to understand them and to bring better solutions. Do you think that diversity is an asset for a company like Starlink?
Without a doubt. Like that is something that we talk about it, if not daily, weekly, about diversity of thought, diversity of employees, and building a culture around that is very important. You're going to get better products, better ideas, And ultimately, the diversity is something that we push for, and that's it's diversity of disciplines too. It's not, you look at, we have teams of mostly engineers here, but we have lawyers and mathematicians, and we have a lot of other disciplines that we employ, that we ask, we get them involved in the stuff that we're doing because their perspective may open up a way of thinking that we didn't previously look at. So it is something that is very much a focus of SpaceX and Starlink.
And also, I was thinking about diversity in generations, in age, because space is like something that fascinates men and women all around the world, with kids, adults, people older. Do you think that you also need people from different generations to have a better product or a better understanding? Because as you were saying, you need also from different disciplines, no? But also, I imagine there's a lot of people older than what one can imagine and can bring something new to the discussion.
Yeah, I thought you could say older than me. There you go. Same. Like, there's a balance between someone that has never been exposed to, a predisposition to what an answer might be, and then there's a balance against folks that have tried stuff already and failed. We don't employ children, but there's, certainly there's a range of ages that you see here at SpaceX walking around the factory. The other beautiful thing about working here is we're in the factory. We have the engineers, we have the manufacturing. It's all in one campus, and the folks go back and forth and communicate. The technician can walk over to the engineer and say, like, why did you design it like this? I can't assemble it like this. Or similarly, the engineer will go out to the technician and say, I'm designing this part. You've had a lot of experience assembling engines before. Like, does this make sense to you? And having that communication all under one roof is one of the reasons we've been so successful, and we've driven a pretty hard schedule.
Talking about diversity, we are also we are in different parts of the world right now. You're in LA and Buenos Aires, but this is an event from Latin America. What do you think that Latin America, what role do you think Latin America can have in the future of Starlink, of space, of connectivity?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I'll put that back onto the listeners and yourself. That's up to you. What role you play. So again, we're deploying an architecture, right, of connectivity. How that gets used, what sort of creative ways in order to connect different parts of the infrastructure down there, to connect communities, and beyond the connection, beyond the Starlink aspect of it, as we better connect the globe, whether you're in Latin America or Europe or Asia, shouldn't really matter. It's the collection of thought and people working together more than the location.
Okay, you've been to some of our countries. Do you experience something different with talents here in Latin America?
I've spent a whole lot of time down in America. Certainly, anytime I've gone, I've been. I love the hospitality of the culture down there, but it's, I can't really speak to the unique skill sets of the folks in Latin America versus anywhere else.
Okay, so we have to show them to you. That's another challenge for us. Okay, and talking more about you and your and your life. Do you envision being yourself in space, maybe in Mars? Do you have that, or you prefer to be here on Earth?
I would love to go to space. I'd like to take a week trip with my family around the moon.
Yeah.
Mars. You know, when I set out on this SpaceX adventure, I certainly said I wanted to be on one of the first trips to Mars. I now have a family with 3 amazing daughters and an amazing wife and a dog that I think would be hard to leave behind for what would probably be a 2-year mission. But I don't want to rule it out. It's a long sail to my wife. So I'm tell her to leave the door open. So there might be an opportunity. So we'll see. But definitely get into space. Orbital space, by the way, not suborbital space.
Okay, that's a good mission. And do you have, when you were growing up, because we were talking about education, do you have like a figure, like, I don't know, in your family or in your school that has a positive impact on you, being an engineer or maybe in something else?
Yeah, I mean, certainly growing up, my father was, he knew electricity, he knew carpentry, he knew plumbing, and as he did those certain skills, he let me be a part of it, and taught me, how to be exposed to car engines and building stuff. And then providing me the opportunity to go to space camp. I took a robotics course in high school that I went into MIT. And got to get some influence into some really smart people at MIT at a very young age, and teachers is another big one. Like, I don't know how. I had a couple teachers that were very influential. One of them was a physics teacher in high school around the same time that just got me excited about what we're doing. So I can't. The impact that teachers have on students, if they can connect with one or two, I know they're going to try to connect with all their students, but it really can have a directional impact. And the opposite is true too. I did have one teacher that said, "You'd never be an engineer."
Wow.
But I proved her wrong. So there's motivation there too. There's a lot of people that have influenced me throughout my life, and I've just been very fortunate.
There's a lot of talk and a lot of articles, books talking about the new normal, what's going to be after this pandemic. We are going through the pandemic, but maybe in a few months, hopefully, we can be out of it. And there's a lot of things that we love to start doing it remotely, thanks to internet, right? Like education, like entertain, like communication. This conversation we are having, maybe in another world, we can have it face-to-face. Now we are having each one in another part of the world. Do you think that the new normal will be mostly digital? Do you think that we're gonna be something hybrid, like something face-to-face, something digital? How do you envision that?
Certainly, I think some things have changed that won't go back to the way it is. It's up to us to decide what that future is. The opposite could also be true too. We've been kept inside for a year and a half. There could be a stronger emphasis on getting away from the computer, getting away from maybe leading up to the pandemic. I won't talk about some of the pieces about social media and whatnot. There may be a positive effect out of this where we more cherish the time away from our digital platforms. Who knows? I really don't know. Certainly, when one of the positive changes that we said, when I connect with customers, normally I would call them on the phone, and almost as a default now, I'm calling people with FaceTime or some sort of video conferencing as a default. And it was awkward at first, but providing I'm also connecting with them on a deeper level, because sometimes I catch them at home, sometimes I catch them in the office. And if folks are open to it, I think you can have an opportunity to have a deeper connection with people that you wouldn't normally ever have that, given great connectivity.
Yeah, I agree with you. You were talking earlier about this, now internet as a tool that you can use in different ways, and maybe you can have like a toxic relationship with Instagram stories or with tweets and everything, but you can also get education, entertain, and you can get connected with people around the world. But it's up to us and what we can do about that. And Jonathan, if you have to think about something, a good advice that it could be helpful when you were growing up to yourself, do you have anything? Maybe don't listen to that that teacher that told you not to be an engineer, but maybe something else.
I didn't listen to her, so that was good. I did a fair amount of like what you would think a young engineer would do is taking stuff apart and building stuff. I wish I did more of it. I wish I probably played around with rockets a little bit more. Like, no, I mean, I was very fortunate growing up. The stuff I got excited about, I pursued. Like I said, space camp, the robotic stuff that I did, it's getting involved. Yeah, it's maybe this is to the folks out there that are listening. Like, you know, depending on where you grew up and the atmosphere you grew up in, engineering or people that excel in math and science may not be the most popular kids in class. And I was, I guess, fortunate enough to have enough self-confidence not to let that impact me. So, but the message to a lot of folks out there, if you look at what is valued, like knowledge is very much valued. Being intellectual or smart or challenging and asking questions is a really good thing. And so I would echo that message that's a really good thing. And later in life, that's going to be what's going to make you stand out. So
that's really nice. And now I believe I'm married with a man who has a daughter, and she's growing up. She's 12 now, and what I can see different from me and maybe from you is that with internet, with social media, you can also have your community. It's not that you only relate with people or have relations with people on your school or in your city. Maybe you have a different taste, different orientation, different interest. And I think that social media, it's a powerful tool to bring community together and to stand out. And maybe you're not the most popular. I study philosophy, so it's not like I was the hottest on my school. But maybe now I see a lot of people with these kind of topics they want to discuss, or music they like, or movies they want to talk about, and internet can be that also. And that's I think that's really important.
It's a balance. As I'm raising my 3 young daughters, it's a balance between that and getting outside and using your imagination and playing in the raw sense. And so I think that's a struggle that all parents have, and actually individuals, whether they know it or not. So.
Yeah. Okay, Jonathan, I have one last question for you, and I want to thank you so much for your time. Do you have anything that you learned in this pandemic? Do you think that it could be a recipe? Something from cooking. I don't know if you're an engineer can cook, but maybe it's something. No, okay. Well, maybe a good place to ask from, delivery for.
Yeah. I did actually, so I don't think this, I'm not sure if this is what you're asking. I took on pizza making. And,
okay.
That was and I don't cook, but now I can make a decent pizza. So.
From scratch?
Completely from scratch, yeah. Oh. So I'm not going to win any prizes on it, but it provides some level of happiness to me, my stomach, and my family. So, yeah.
I mean, it's not like having satellites around the world or having spaceship, but it's not bad to have a good pizza.
Okay. Go ahead.
And do you have like a routine, like because we were talking earlier prior this transmission that you were traveling a lot. How can you stay? Maybe you have your time for reading or I don't know. Practice some sport. Do you have like a routine like that or no?
I think like a lot of people in my situation, the balance is challenging, right? And so I'm fortunate enough to have a job that I love and surrounded by a team that works really hard and also love their job. So work is a predominant aspect of what we do. Family is also very important. Exercise could always use a little bit more exercise. There's the lack of routine there.
More pizza or less pizza, more exercise could be.
Exercise is great. Like having a balanced, healthy, eating regimen and exercise regimen is important. The challenge is balancing that against everything else that you have going on. So I need to exercise more.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. It was really a pleasure to talk to you. You're really generous with your time and with your wisdom. I hope you can be in Latin America soon to have more pizza or learn to do better pizza and to talk more about, this great mission of having the world connected. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Les agradezco muchísimo a todos los que se conectaron de todas partes del mundo: Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia y Brasil, entre otros países. Una charla que fue distinta. Arrancamos hablando de Internet por el mundo, de la importancia, del impacto de la tecnología, de estar conectado, de qué pasa con las cosas que están buenas de Internet y las cosas que no están tan buenas. Terminamos hablando de hacer pizza. Me encantaría que también nos cuenten qué aprendiste en esta pandemia, de la que vamos a cruzar los dedos, esperemos poder salir con enseñanzas y con más cosas. Recuerden que tienen todavía un montón de actividades, un montón de charlas, keynotes, speakers, workshops. Hago mi chivito, mañana a las 16, si quieren, con mi grupo de filosofía y tecnología, vamos a tener un workshop que va a estar buenísimo sobre filosofía y tecnología, pero el Campus Party en esta Digital Edition tiene un montón de actividades. Les agradezco mucho, mi nombre es Tomás Almaceda, Jonathan and I, goodbye.
Goodbye.